Hi, this is Ken Jones again from PierFishing.com, Pier Fishing in California. We're on a wintertime visit to Avalon in beautiful Catalina Island, and it's wintertime and it's Christmas time, Christmas season, so everything's all decorated up nice, everything's pretty. And because it's this time of the year, we're going to be doing a little bit of fishing out here, but also we're going to be doing some hooping for lobsters. And we're on the Green Pleasure Pier, which is the pier in the harbor. And there's two piers basically in Avalon. One's the Cabrillo Mole, and then there's the Green Pleasure Pier. It's been here for over 100 years. For all the piers I fish in California, it's got the highest fish per hour of any pier in California. And it's a place I always try to hit whenever I'm down here. But tonight's something special. It's night fishing. And it's hooping for lobster. And I'm lucky to have with me tonight Hashem Nahid. Name on our message board, PierFishing.com message board, is Mahigeer, which I think means, you told me this.
Angler, fisherman.
It means fisherman, the angler. Mahigeer's been coming out here about 10 years, I guess. It is probably his favorite place to try to get lobster. And we convinced him to come over since we were coming over. To show us some of the techniques that he uses to hopefully get a few lobsters. Now it's later in the season today, so it gets harder as the season goes on, but maybe we can still pull up a few lobsters. So Hashem, how long have you been, would you say you've been lobstering out here at Catalina? How many years?
Well, in 2006 I had the pleasure of finding you on the internet and meeting you, and I came for the get-together. 2008 and 9 I started doing lobster.
So that's about a dozen years.
It's been a while.
Yeah,
yes. And at that time we could do hooping at the mole, but when the MLPA went into effect, then they said no more lobster hooping. We still can fish at the mole, but so this is the only place left. And conditions here are not really the best. The mole has a lot of rocks, and that's what the lobsters like. Here is sandy. About 4 times of it has been productive.
As far as legal lobster.
As far as a legal lobster, right. There was a time that I had like almost 300 short one night. I mean, that was a fantastic. And there was a night that might have been the same night. By 8:30, I had my limit, and that's it. Yeah. Lobster, as far as the net, before they used to have a flat net that they used to bring fish up pier when you do pier fishing for bigger, and then somebody came out with what we call a ambush conical nets, which right now I have it in the water, and I'm going to pull it out.
We're going to see that when you pull it out.
Right. Yeah.
What do you feel is the best bait?
Well, a lot of people have different opinions. In my opinion, it's a bonito and mackerel, because they're very oily and bloody, and that's what you want, the smell of the
so oil, blood, and smelly.
Right. Right. Yeah. There are products out there that you can spray whatever you want. Some people like chicken. I've heard of salmon head seems to be. I don't know how would the local lobster know about salmon. We don't have salmon, but they seem to like it.
Yeah. Well, they're oily.
Yeah, and I've heard of liver. I've never tried any of those. And what's fun for me is to catch the bonito, hopefully in the morning, and put the fresh bonito back in the cage at night and catch lobster.
Now, you said you had one night when you caught like 300 lobsters. What would be the biggest one? Did you measure what the biggest one might be?
At that time it wasn't, but there was a trip that we were together and you were very cold.
Yeah, I remember that night very well.
Yes. And
the night I froze to death, basically.
Yeah, yes. And the worse the storm got, the bigger the lobster got. And I think I had a 3-pounder there. And one time, if you recall, I brought it to the Fred Hall show. I caught the big one at the Santa Monica Pier.
Right.
And we kept it in the bucket and we had it in the show.
Right.
And showing that. So those were. But usually here they don't get any bigger than 3 pounds.
3 pounds.
So far,
Okay.
yeah.
And you got the bait. Now I know from what you've told me that typically right when the season opens is the best time to go.
Right.
Before a lot of people have
Right.
gotten the
Well,
lobster.
actually, that becomes such a problem for Fish and Game because it used to be 12 o'clock, 2:01 at the opener when the date changed, and the boaters were waiting, getting drunk, getting into trouble. You know, this is my spot. So Fish and Game recently, last couple of years, changed it so the season starts 6 o'clock a.m. in the morning.
Okay.
So basically, you don't. Lobster is at night.
Yeah.
They hide during the day, and they what we call a crawl. They come out at night to basically forage and eat, and they like dark. One of the problem with this pier now, they put very bright lights, and that's another issue. And so when it gets dark, basically that's their breakfast.
Yeah.
That's they're hungry. So when I'm here at the beginning, I start pulling up every 15 minutes because if I leave it longer than that, and if the short ones sit in the cage and start eating, they still can't eat, you know, and I cannot keep it, so I keep losing bait. So
Now, I might add, just to throw this in, that since the pandemic started, some of the piers on the mainland, the cities started closing them down earlier. A lot of piers that used to be open all night long and used to have people that would go out there and lobster all night long. Now there's some of those piers that the cities close down at 10 o'clock at night. They don't open until 5 in the morning. So that some of those piers, like Oceanside for instance, are not as good any longer for catching lobster as they once were. Luckily here that hasn't happened, but like you said, nighttime is the best time to get the lobster, and if they close the piers at night, it makes it pretty tough to do much lobstering.
I keep them alive. I have, in fact, I can show you. This is my design of a sea lion proof after the sea lions.
You mean a sea lion would try to steal a lobster?
Well,
Or a
everything, fish,
No,
whatever.
no.
So whatever I catch when I come for fishing or lobster, I put it in here, and they stay alive till time to go home.
Fantastic.
And then I put them in my cooler, and I get some ice, and they basically go to sleep.
Yeah.
So by the time I get home, they're basically done.
Yeah. We're going to be watching you pull some of these hoops. Hopefully we can get some lobster. Like I said, this is it's in December now. It's the wintertime here at Avalon. It's a beautiful time to be here because the city is so pretty with all the lights and everything, but it's not necessarily the greatest time for lobster because the season's been open for about 2 months, I guess.
It started October. Yeah.
So a lot of other people have been out here trying to get lobster. And also sometimes what happens with lobster is they tend to, as the season goes on, they go from shallower water out to deeper water. And so sometimes the lobster that are around the pier, say in October, may be farther out by this time of the year or later in the year. So hopefully we'll get some tonight and show people what it's all about. But you never know.
Nope, nothing yet. This is the latest design of the net, which has been very effective. And this one is called the ambush. And the one before this, they had it that would collapse, and then you set it up. And it used to be called the eclipse, but everybody seems to like these ones better because there's no setup. It's ready to go. The other one, the flat would get flat and it was easier to transport. They all have a pocket in the center, but that you can put bait in there. But that's a mistake because the sea lions will come and tear that pocket and take the bait, and the net is useless. So everybody uses a bait cage. Now this is also the latest, and it's really good. It comes apart and you put bait in there. It's black. and apparently lobsters don't like white. For example, my own doing, so many different people try different parts, and these are from Home Depot, basically drainage for landscaping, and I put cat food in there, and because we want to have a best as much as possible scent for them to come. And so what happens with this kind of net is the lobster is sitting here. First of all, it's very important to remember that as a recreational fisherman, we're not allowed traps. These are hoop nets. The difference is commercial fishermen use traps and they can leave it as long as they want. The lobster goes in there and cannot get out. But for recreational fishermen, we have to use only hoop net. That's the only legal way, so the lobster can get out, and that's their design. And we're supposed to pull it every 2 hours maximum if you're on the boat, but we're on the pier, and I like to pull the lobster because if there's a short lobster, they'll just sit there and eat the bait and use my bait. So I like in Catalina on this pier every 15-20 minutes early on, and then longer time later. So basically this has a little float and it holds it up, and these are you can buy them ready-made. I like to use a thicker rope than the nets come. These nets don't come with the rope, but the flat ones they do, and these are easier on your hand. Now with the flat nets that we used to use to bring fish, the problem was that this center circle could move and could sit close to the edge. So when the lobster comes and is sitting at the edge and eating, so when you pull that net, they could get out. That's why with those kind of flat net, the first 4, 5, 6 feet you have to pull really fast, and it's a reverse cone, and the lobster basically stays there. And a lot of times if you don't do it fast enough, I've seen videos of lobster actually escaping. With this kind of net, that's why it has become very popular, is that the lobster sitting on a box and is eating, and once you start pulling, and you don't have to pull it fast, the lobster tries to get away, actually gets trapped. So this design has become so popular that the lobster fishermen are unhappy about it. And I've been to meetings the Fish and Game had regarding the design of these. They told us at the meeting that they didn't care about this, but if they didn't care, why are they showing every meeting? So I guess the recreational fishermen are catching more than before, and it's a double-edged sword. If you catch a lot, then we're not going to have as many for every lobster, especially short lobster. This is the only legal way to catch lobster. If you catch a fish in here, you have to release it. If I've seen I don't want to get into it, but if you catch a lobster with a hook, doesn't matter what size it is, doesn't matter what season, you have to put it back legally. Recommended to use gloves because these are spiny lobsters, and they have very, very sharp spines, especially in the tail. And if you get a lobster and put it on your hand, it relaxes and you can measure it. Now, in order for the lobster to be what we call legal, the carapace, which is between the V of the eye and where the tail starts, that's a body called carapace, has to be 3¼ inch or more. If you're gauged, you hook it between the V of the 2 eye, and it goes inside and it touches the tail, that means that lobster is considered short and it has to go back. The limit for the lobster is 7, but it's not a daily bag like a fish. It's what we call a possession, which means technically you have to eat those lobster or give it away or whatever before going to try to catch more. With the fishing, you can catch daily bag and go next day and another daily bag there. Uh, this particular gauge has a size for crab also, or for the lobster. Some people actually file the gauge a little bigger because Fish and Game uses their gauge to measure it. And if you make it a little bigger, you may be throwing the, just legal, but whatever you're keeping is absolutely legal. There is no, that's insurance. I haven't done it, but because when I'm measuring and it's a little bit loose, I don't take a chance.
A little slow. Our Christmas time visit to the pier, Santa didn't give us much gifts, but at least you got a chance to see how you can hoop for lobsters. Avalon's still beautifully lit up, and we had fun. That's really what fishing's about, is having fun. So Hashem's going to stay out here a few more hours, get the big giant lobsters. I'm going back to my room and going to bed. So nice warm bed. So I hope you enjoyed a little visit to the Green Pleasure Pier on Avalon at Catalina Island.
Well, it's morning, and I was up all night trying to catch lobster in the other pier, and I didn't. I wasn't expecting, but we gave it a try. One thing I forgot to mention last night is the part of regulation is to have a lobster card. It's very, very long and big, and it's not expensive. It's about $10 currently for a whole season. And with the lobster card, everybody has to have it. It doesn't matter what age. Unlike the fishing license, which 16 and older has to have it, but the lobster card, everybody has to have it. And also a gauge. You have to have the lobster card and a gauge. With this lobster card new regulations, I don't know if you can see, there are places like the month, the date, the location, and the gear code, and the lobster retained. So in the back in here, they have all the codes that you put in there depending where we are. Catalina happens to be 01, the first spot on the list, so that goes there. And it's a regulation that you fill everything here before you put your net down, and with exception of the retain, because you haven't caught anything, you're just starting. And then at the end of the night, then you fill up. In my case, it's going to be a 0 there. And at the end of the season, you're obligated to send this back or through their website, fill it out. And this is for research. If you do not send it back, and next season you want to get a new lobster card, then they penalize you for $20-some, $25 before you could buy another. So highly recommend. A lot of people think that if they show it that they caught a lot of lobster, Fish and Wildlife is gonna close that area. I don't think so. They are using this for research, so it's best to return it or go online and fill it out for them. Thank you.
Okay, we hope that you watch our pier fishing videos. We have two aims. One aim is to educate people how to be better anglers. And secondly, we hope we entertain you a little bit. Hope you enjoyed these films. Watch the films. Hit the like button. Hit the subscribe button. And keep watching.